Welcome to Prepare For Takeoff. I'm the creator and host, Terry L. Cyrus, with the podcast dedicated to amplifying Black excellence. Every week, we sit down with a proven professional or a rising entrepreneur. This week, we're sitting down with retired Colonel Dr. Gerald D. Curry. Dr. Curry, what's going on?
Hey, bro, I'm doing great, man. So good to be here. I tell you, I've listened to and preparing for this. I've listened to some of your old shows. Amazing. I appreciate what you're doing out there.
I appreciate you, bro, and all of the things you're doing, man. You have your hands in so many different things, everything from all of the years of service that you served our country at the highest level and now into publishing and all points in between. So I want to give you the opportunity to really unpack that. Before we get to all of those things that makes you the epitome of Black excellence, where did it all start for you?
I think it all started for me at home, mom and dad. My dad was a preacher. Mom was a school teacher. And so education was always a focal point and always valued in our home. Quick story, a young lady by the name of Oprah Winfrey. She's about 6 years older than me. She used to be my babysitter when I was a youngster. We didn't have a library in our community, and so she would take us to the bookmobile that would come through every 2 weeks. And she would make us check out 5 books apiece. And then we would have to read them and actually give a oral report to her just to kind of keep ourselves busy. So anyway, I like to say that I was in her first reading club growing up that she started.
That is a blessing to say that you remember her win and for her to pour into you at that early age and look at who you are today. I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. Those seeds, not only did your parents pour into you, but then being able to identify with somebody who wasn't that far apart from you in age and who continued to pour into you in that same capacity.
Yeah. Well, she's about 6 years older than me. I mean, naturally, we had to do what she said, but
right.
I think she was probably 12, 13 years old at the time.
Okay.
Strict disciplinarian, wouldn't let us get away with anything, tell the truth. I didn't care for her back then. I mean, like any little kid, but she created my interest in reading. And now I'm an insatiable reader. I do at least 3 books a week, and I just can't stop.
Man, that's phenomenal. So I know you're originally from Nashville, and then your family relocated to Florida, and then you made your way back to attend Tennessee State. So what impact did attending an HBCU have on your development?
Absolutely huge. I had a full ride scholarship to Pepperdine University. And my father said, I don't know anybody in California. So and I already had 2 older brothers that were already at TSU, Tennessee State University. And he said, you're going to TSU. So I don't care about that full ride scholarship. We'll figure out the finances. And sure enough, he gave me $50, packed the car up. And I drove from West Palm Beach to Nashville, one of my close friends. During that time, we still had punch cards. That was before computers. So we registered, got in, and the rest was history. But being at a TSU, as I reflect back on HBCU, critically important. As far as building lifelong relationships, teaching me the importance of learning in our history from a historical perspective, absolutely undeniably. And I've leveraged that all of my life. TSU's motto is think, work, serve. And I've been living by that same motto in every endeavor that I take up on.
And a lot of people don't realize the close ties that not only do you develop at your HBCU, but just the HBCU community is so interconnected.
It really is.
And we were talking before we started the show and how we know some of the same people. Shout out to Christy Evans. We grew up in the same neighborhood, literally around the corner from one another.
Aristocratic bands.
Right. And come to find out you guys were in the band together.
Yes, sir. Aristocratic bands. They're Grammy Award winners now. Yeah, shout out to the Aristocrats.
Man, that's crazy. I mean, and then also we share in common our membership to our beloved Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. So, Rho to the Qs. So talk to me about the impact that being a bruh has had in your development.
Being an Omega man has been absolutely essential to everything that I've done. And the reason I say our cardinal principles are more than just words. Up on my wall, I have a letter that was written by one of our founders, Brother Cooper. And he kind of talks about the importance of manhood. And it was written back in 1962. And so just an amazing letter. And so I've always used that as my North Star on how to conduct myself, how to prepare before walking into a meeting, regardless of the meeting. Spending as long as I have in the military, oftentimes I would be the only person of color walking into that room. And so I knew that everything that I did was being scrutinized. I was always on parade. And so that's something you kind of learn to live with. And with that, again, you knew you can take it off by being a bro. Bros are everywhere, absolutely everywhere. I was in Germany for 6 years, and Theta Rho chapters was alive and well back in the 80s. And so if you just need a chance to kind of plug in, to kind of relax yourself, you could do it with the bros without worrying about being judged and all of that. So the fraternity has meant the world to me.
Yeah, and the fraternity, even before I was a bruh, the fraternity had an impact on my life. One of the neighborhood fathers of my community, my father, his nickname was the Cyrus, so everybody knew he didn't play. Luckily, in our neighborhood, for the most part, everybody had both parents in the household.
Yeah.
But there was still some hierarchies as far as what everybody did professionally. You know, my dad, who is 91 years old, he was also a military man, and then he went on and he labored with the phone company. But then there was men that were a little younger than him. That was that generation of people who, you know, more so than not, they were going to college. So my friend's father, Dr. Charles Byers, who, you know, he is still a beloved member, not just locally, but nationally, who has served in a multitude of different capacities for the fraternity. Just seeing what the fraternity from an outsider's perspective was when I would go to my friend's house and I'm like, okay, so what is that? I see this shield. I see this paraphernalia. Didn't know what it was, but then I would see all of the people that would make the pilgrimage to his house and that brotherhood. And I'm a kid. I don't fully understand what's going on. Now, granted, the school is literally down the street. And you said that your father said you're going to TSU. That's exactly what my dad told me. He said, you're going to West Virginia State. Mom and dad said the same thing. Didn't matter what I said. I thought I was going to anywhere outside of West Virginia. They were like, look, your brother went there, your sister went there. That's where you're going. So I really didn't have a choice in the matter. But in my mind, the reason why I wanted to go away is because I felt as though I was already attending West Virginia State socially because my brother was a bruh and I was always around him and the bruhs, even though I was in high school.
Wow.
And then I was able to get an even closer look on the brotherhood and all of the things that came with that. So for me, it was never a doubt in my mind. I went online second semester freshman.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, bro. Went online when I was 18, crossed when I was 19.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So for me, I said, this is what I want to do. And I'm doing it. And it's been a blessing because having been in the frat, as long as I've been in the frat, man, the friendships I've been able to establish and the connectivity that comes with it. And really, bro, it's like having a skeleton key. It doesn't matter what industry, what station, there's bros that's going to be there.
Yes, sir.
And just how we connected. It's just a matter of bros plugging in with me and you and bringing us all together. So for me, I feel as though the blessing that the fraternity has been for me is I can't even put it into words.
I tell you, it's amazing. Friendship is essential to the soul. And I think sometimes it takes a long time to really realize that. It's critically important to know that, you know, all of us need someone to lean on from time to time. I'm not sure about you, but I had a lot of crisis early in my life. And during that time, I had to lean on the shield to kind of get through those tough times.
Absolutely, bro. I mean, for me, when I moved to New Jersey, I moved up here the day after I graduated. So my going away to school was when I left and went to New Jersey. And my brother was here, my sister's here, and he's a brother, my sister's a Delta. So there was some connectivity to the D9. And then I had a couple of distance sands that were in the area outside of Philadelphia. So they were in Philadelphia to be exact, and I was living outside of Philadelphia. So then I had the good fortune of being able to hang out with the bros and not have to worry about going to school. So I was plugging in with the Beta bros, the BG bros, the Phi Kappa bros at Rowan, and so on and so forth. So that all of my friendships, I would say maybe 9 out of 10 people that you see me with, they were bros. And because I wasn't from here. And then that was how I was able to build my relationships in the area. And then, so when I transitioned into entertainment, it was the bros that was able to kind of plug me into, you need to talk to this bro, you need to do this, you need to do that. And it allowed me to kind of fast track my way into some scenarios that I may not have otherwise gotten into as fast as I did because of those relationships that I had. And I'm forever grateful. So I want to rewind a little bit and talk our viewers and listeners through after you had the time of your life at TSU. You was a bruh, you were a member of the band, and you were a percussionist, correct?
I was. Yes.
Okay.
Played the cymbals and
Okay.
the snare drum. Yeah.
Okay, so I used to, believe it or not, bro, I used to play the drums myself. Not in college, but junior high and a little bit of high school. So I played the drums. But so now once you left CSU, because I know you were in the ROTC as well, did you deploy immediately after you graduated, or what was your service commitment after you graduated?
Yeah, exactly. I actually came in on a 6-year contract, and after the 6 years, I was already a captain. So I knew that was a place that I kind of wanted to hang out and be. But let's rewind for a second. While I was at TSU, I was always been a martial artist. Started in martial arts in 1970. Got my black belt and then went on to become number 3 in the world in kickboxing. Was the number 3 world-rated fighter under the Professional Karate Association. I have a professional record of 36 wins, 6 losses, and 19 knockouts. And in 2010, I was inducted in the Black Belt Hall of Fame. The only reason I mentioned that is because it paid my way through school, as well as my, at that time, soon-to-be wife's way through school as well. And so I was able to leverage martial arts to kind of do a whole lot. I continued to fight once I got my commission and came on active duty. And so every base that I went to, I would start up another martial arts program for the local kids at the community centers, started International Kickboxing Studio, which is a commercial venue for myself, and then went on to promote tournaments and things of that nature. I'm an 8th degree black belt now, which is a grand master. And so now I travel around the country promoting other black belts to the higher levels in our discipline of Nisi Goju. So martial arts has always been a big part of my legacy and what I do. And again, it goes back to the discipline. So as you were talking about your relationships within the fraternity, the one thing that was like the salient theme or that thread that just kind of weaved it all together for me was trust. There's an indelible amount of trust that brothers really have for one another. If you hear someone's a bruh, then you're going to lay out the red carpet to assist them to do whatever's necessary. And I've been able to benefit from that my entire career.
Yeah, right. You and me both. And then not only for me had I had all the things that kind of had a impression on me, to say the least, growing up, but then all of the things that I didn't even realize, I was always surrounded by the bros or the fraternity's influence. So speaking of the founders, at my church, Simpson, it used to be Simpson AME, but that was way before my time. So I know it to be Simpson Memorial United Methodist Church.
Oh, wow.
On the wall to this day, they have the Sons of Simpson. And one of those Sons of Simpson, who is it? Bishop Edgar A. Love.
Wow.
He used to be a bishop in my church.
Wow.
To say that one of the founders was in the church that and served as a bishop and stood at that pulpit in the church that I grew up in.
Yeah, that's huge.
That's huge.
Yeah, yeah.
Getting back to your military service, was there a transition that you had to make from going from a civilian, granted you were serving in the ROTC, but to go from ROTC civilian, if you will, to active duty and deploying overseas?
Not really a big transition. I mean, every officer has to go through basic training. And so that's typically about 6 weeks, 6 to 12 weeks, depending on your discipline. Then there's a technical training that you have to do after that. Of course, I did all those things. And then they ship you off to whatever base of assignment that you're going to be at. Throughout my career, 27 years, I had 16 different assignments. Every commander during that time would spend about 2 years at each base. And so I started commanding at an early age. I was, again, young captain. And so it took me about three and a half years before I commanded my first unit. It was about 200 people over in Hahn Air Base, Germany, which is in the Hunsrück region. We're protecting nuclear weapons as well as law enforcement for the base. That would serve me well because eventually I would get selected to actually attend the FBI Academy. And so I graduated from the FBI Academy back in 2000. And so I've been able to continually build on my law enforcement experience at an executive level throughout that time. So the military was really good for me. There was a time I was thinking about getting out. My father encouraged me to stay in, and it's a good thing that he did.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't see what he could see at that time, but I never missed a rank. Always made every rank on time. Didn't make any rank below the zone or ahead of time, but I did make rank on time, which was quite sufficient. And retiring as a colonel is not an easy feat.
I know that, bro. I'm not even military. So you tell somebody you're a colonel, whether you're military or not, man, they're like, wow, that's a huge accomplishment. What advice would you give a young person that's watching this that maybe they're in the ROTC? Like my nephew, he's a bruh. He's a Spring 16 Kappa Delta bruh. He plays at UAB. He's in the process of fulfilling his commitment with the military. Let's say he wants to make a career out of it and maybe he wants to retire as a colonel. Like, what steps or advice would you give that young serviceman or woman, whether they're Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, whatever? What advice would you give them?
Well, first thing I would say, get a copy of my book, Striving for Perfection, Developing Professional Black Officers. And the only reason I'm not trying to get a shameless plug, but what I am saying is that in that book gives you a roadmap on how to behave, how to kind of, I guess, govern your character. More importantly, the first thing you need to do is find a mentor, someone that has already done what you are doing, and so they can pour into you and kind of help you navigate. Because right now, with this administration, things are pretty treacherous. There are landmines everywhere you go. And if you're not aware of that, when you walk into a meeting, then, you can self-sabotage yourself just because of ignorance. And so one thing I used to tell my colonels, because as I retired, I had 16 colonels working for me. And so I used to tell them, you need to prepare for every meeting before you get there. So now you can add value. You've already thought about what's being debated, what decisions need to be made, and where the answers are. You need to be the person that's solving those problems. And the only way to do that is to do your due diligence before you get there, which means that you got to do a hell of a lot of reading, a hell of a lot of conversation, a lot of networking. All those things are critically important.
Bro, I couldn't agree with you more, man. I want to give you the opportunity to kind of unpack some of the things that you did in the military as far as some of your positions and titles and things of that nature, because I'm sure our viewers and listeners are very curious about that.
Yeah, I started out in nuclear security. So my job was to make sure the country's nuclear arsenal was protected and ready to go if the president ever decided that he's going to pull the trigger. And so with that comes a lot of responsibility. The military has a program called Personal Reliability Program, PRP, which meant that when you show up for duty, you go through a survey every single day to make sure that you're fit to perform 8 to 12 hours a day, which means can't be drinking, can't be tired, so you've had to have got your rest ahead of time, can't have too many social issues on your mind or emotional issues like family. And so we're asked to actually step aside and say, hey, I can't do it today because of X, Y, and Z. And so again, it teaches you how to discipline yourself the entire time that you're doing that job. So again, nuclear security was my focus and continue to be my focus. I've written books on it, textbooks. I've traveled around the world, have spoken at the UN on nuclear security guidance. I was the Deputy Assistant Secretary at the Department of Energy, controlling nuclear waste, again, for the country. I was the guy that made sure that every time you walk over to your light switch and turn it on, you can do it consciously and know that your lights are coming on, because we had a protection mechanism to make sure that that electrical grid was protected across the country. And so from that perspective, only by the grace of God was I able to not only be in those positions, but also learn from those positions and execute at the highest level. I spent a lot of time in meetings, both at the White House as well as on Capitol Hill, defending our budget to congressmen and things of that nature. So the exposure has been tremendous from that perspective. But again, you mentioned about your brother and all those other youngsters that are coming along the way. My accomplishments will be absolutely nothing if I can't give back to those young people that are coming along, because their path is I don't want to say it's different. It's just a little bit more challenging. We're in some very challenging and unpredictable times because we don't know what this administration is going to do next. In times like these, you need to govern yourself accordingly. And again, hunker down, learn, and be inquisitive about everything when it comes to your profession.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. Like just as a people, we've always had to pivot, navigate, pivot, navigate. So the times that we're in, it's just, this is the new challenge of the day. And it just so happens that it's on Pennsylvania Avenue. And some of the predicaments that he's putting us in as a nation is something that I can't understand how and why the people are sitting down quiet and not jumping up and down as they would be, let's say, if someone else was in power. It seems as though, sad but unfortunately true, one side, we seem to have the decorum of saying, okay, well, let's do things proper. And then the other side is like, we'll storm the White House. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There has to be some point in between where enough noise can be made and you do it by coloring inside the lines and being respectful of the offices that people are holding and holding the people accountable for the work that they're expected to do in those positions. But I mean, but bro, you would know better than me because you're in those rooms and I'm just seeing it on CNN.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, there's a lot of shouting and showing out that is occurring here in Washington, D.C. But I would like to think that Jeremiah Wright, our good brother, was correct when he said that the chickens are coming home to roost. There will be a day of reckoning, and I think it's going to be at the midterms. And I think the president was right in his prediction. When the Democrats get back in power, he will be impeached. And so I think that was kind of self-foretelling to some degree. And so, but we're not going to get into the whole politics conversation. But I think that it's important. The removal or the erasing of DEI, the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, all those things that have been overturned, not allowing LGBTQ community to actually serve in our military. All these things have been fought for. People have died for. And again, I just think that there will be a day of reckoning that this administration is going to have to answer.
I agree, man. As they say, what's done in the dark will come in the light.
But they ain't doing it in the dark. They're doing it in the light.
Bro. They doing it on Front Street with floodlights.
Neon signs, so.
That's real. So, bro, now after you had this illustrious career, then you operated in a civilian capacity as a senior executive. So talk us through what that transition was like.
Being a senior executive in the government is probably, I'm going to say my daughter's word, the cat's meow, because you were able to actually control a very sizable budget of the federal government. You're able to open doors for people, give folks jobs that were well needed, send people to training, all of that, and still be respected. Being a colonel was good training for that because, again, I've had to supervise other colonels, and I've actually had one-star generals that have actually worked for me. In fact, I have a one-star that was my deputy. So being at the senior level of government, you have to know how to carry yourself because, again, everyone's watching what you do, what you don't do, where your eyes go, where your eyes don't go, what you're going to speak out on, what you're not going to speak out on, what you're wearing that day, what color your tie is, where you park your car, and whether or not your car is clean and smell nice when they get in it, if they get in it. All those things. Now, trust me, you have a staff to kind of handle most of your business, especially your calendar. I didn't do anything unless my secretary told me it was on my calendar. And, I left it up to her to kind of handle my whereabouts. But that gives you the comfort of saying that I need to be able to perform when I get into these senior meetings and we're making decisions. Absolutely critical. And so in order to be your best self in those critical times, you got to get your rest. You got to prepare. And that preparing is nonstop because everyone's pulling at you, trying to get on your calendar, trying to get a little bit of mentoring. During that time, I was mentoring over 200 people, not only across the nation, but around the world. And so I would block off about 6 hours of my time throughout the week just to spend time to have conversations with people to kind of help better direct them with their career and things of that nature. And I think that's critically important. It's important to be able to do that. Walking around your workspaces just to make sure that everybody's doing good. Speaking to people, whether they're a janitor at the lowest level are either, again, a general officer, it doesn't matter, but treating people with the dignity and respect you demand. And so all those things are absolutely critical.
Now, were there any challenges or adjustments that you had to make going from being a colonel to being a senior executive on the civilian side?
Most certainly. Yeah. Being a senior executive, there's an expectation that you know some stuff. So when you don't know some stuff, you better know somebody that do know what it is that you're looking for.
Right.
You learn how to be silent and allow your silence to become your most powerful weapon. You take copious notes, and you also keep a database of professional colleagues that you can call to get things done. There's times that, especially at the review board agency, that I would rule against. I was like the Supreme Court justice for the Air Force. And so if a four-star general made a decision on someone, I had the delegated power from the Secretary of the Air Force to overturn it. And so I would call that general and say, hey, boss, I'm not going to do it your way. This is what we're going to do, and this is why. Well, you can argue with me, and we can even take it to the secretary if you want. But this is my decision, and this is why. So understanding your authorities, I think, is critically important. It's something that I did not have as a colonel. And you do have some, but it's more unit level. But at the senior executive level, now we're talking about at a national, if not global scale. I was responsible for the whole Air Force, 670,000 people that you actually are catering to. So it's a totally different type of mindset. And again, you surround your people that will keep you grounded and more importantly, hold you accountable.
Right.
You can't get there and act like you all that because you're not. And you're not. The only reason you're there is because someone paved the way for you to be there. And I think it's critically important to remember any achievement that we make is only because someone had paid the dues for you to be in that role. So what are you going to do with it is what Joe Madison used to say. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to squander this opportunity? Or are you going to stand up and speak for the masses and do the things that you're supposed to do?
You have to show them that opportunity that you were given, it wasn't given in vain, and you're making the most of it so that the next brother or sister will get us a similar opportunity, maybe in some instances, even a better opportunity. Think about all of the doors that Barack Obama has opened up.
And tell you, the president had it on his staff when he took office. He called all the people in that actually worked in the White House. And he said, only got one rule, just one rule, and we'll get along fine. And what he said was, don't do and don't say stupid SHIT.
Right.
He said, if you just follow that one rule of not doing and not saying stupid stuff, we'll be fine. This administration will be fine. We'll probably get reelected. And sure enough, what happened? Man, there was so much respect. You walk into a meeting in the White House and it would look like the Rainbow Coalition because you saw people from all over. Now, when the next administration got in and you walk in and it felt like you were up in Idaho and Montana and there was like no diversity anymore. Matter of fact, the few brothers or sisters that would be in there wouldn't say anything to you because they didn't want to be viewed as chastising of getting too close to you. So again, you have to learn to kind of manage that because I would go into meetings and there would be people from all different agencies from across the government as we were trying to settle whatever it is that we were trying to settle.
And Brian, I know you're being humble because I'm sure you could just run down your laundry list of titles and positions that you served in. Because I'm peeping, and you're like, yo, Brian, I've operated in this capacity. But I'm sure our viewers and listeners is like, okay, I want to know. I want all to see.
Well, yeah, we don't have enough time to go through all that. But I would say that if anybody wants to know, all you got to do is Google my name.
Right.
And if you punch up Gerald Curry bio, Air Force bio is there. Every job that I've ever held since 1984 is listed, where I've been, education, all those different types of things is all there. So it's out there for public consumption.
Thinking about starting your own business? Make it real with Shopify, the all-in-one platform trusted by millions to sell online and in person, whether it's merch, art, or digital goods. Shopify gives you the tools to build, grow, and succeed. And here's the best part. When you sign up using the affiliate link in our show notes, you're supporting Prepare for Takeoff and starting your business off right. Click the link and start your free trial today. And not only is your bio out there for public consumption, but so too is some of your publishing works. And I know you have a publishing arm, and I believe that you have that with your brother. Is that correct?
We do. We own Curry Brothers Publishing. It was started back in 2003 by Kenneth Curry, and he wrote about 26 books, children's books. He was a school teacher, and unfortunately, he died in 2008. The company languished for about 5 years. In 2013, my older brother and I decided to reignite it. We didn't know anything about publishing, but we learned it, and we made a hell of a lot of mistakes. We lost a lot of money during those first few years, but I can tell you now, there's nothing about publishing that I don't know, because I've done it, been there, in the whole 9 yards. And we're bringing on some pretty iconic authors at this particular point that I'm really proud of the company and the amazing things that we're doing, especially with this time where then the president decided that he's going to ban books. So we have a children's subscription service that we're promoting. We're doing books on Olympians and professional athletes. This morning, I was on the phone with Michael Plant, who's the president and CEO of the Atlanta Braves. We're about to do books on all the Atlanta Braves players, so then they can use it as a promotion. Last night, I'm on the phone with Willie Lanier, NFL's first Black middle linebacker for Kansas City. And so the point that I'm making is that we're beginning to create some inroads for literacy, and we want to make reading fun again. And so whether or not you actually want to read a hardbound book, or either you have a kid has a tablet and they want to do an ebook or either an audio book, we do it all. And so we're really excited about that. I think Brother Jerry Holiday,
Absolutely.
we're doing the Omega Black Writer Series. And so we're trying to create a venue for all Omegas that are actually authors, that then we can actually put our marketing and promotion arm behind it to give their books more visibility, and they can actually sell more books. I'm working with the Grand Council on trying to create a mandated program that focuses on scholarship. Again, we're showcasing our authors, our Omega men that are authors, as well as now going out to the different schools and actually reading to children. So then they, again, can kind of get used to seeing Black men inside the classroom, but more importantly, understand that everything that you really want to know is somewhere in the book. It's somewhere in the book. And when we think about AI, this is an AI generation, then you can push of a button and find everything that's been published about a particular topic. So this is not the time to ban books. This is the time to embrace books. I still read 3 books a week, 2 audio books and 1 hard book, printed book rather. And I think that is critically important, because we need to know what we don't know. And so leaders are readers and learners are earners. So yeah, let's take it to the next level, man.
I like that, bro. And I may have a young writer in the making in my daughter who's 12, and she's already done some things. She's since retired. She had her own show.
Wow.
Called Sasha's World. She's interviewed everybody from Lunel to Keith Beauchamp, who did the Emmett Till movie with Whoopi Goldberg, to Vinnie Brown from Naughty by Nature. These are all people that are in my inner circle. Keep in mind, bro, she was like 7. She didn't know who any of these people were. But so she was interviewing them, and it was very well received. And then at some point, bro, she decided she was going to retire. And now she's I think she retired at 8.5. So now what she is, she's an avid reader. She loves to write. My dad keeps telling her she needs to write her own book. This is something that she does for fun. So when she gets these assignments at school, it's laughable, because I'm like, this is what she does for fun. Like if I pick her up from school and I say, do you want to go to Central Park or you want to go to the bookstore? 9 times out of 10, she'll pick the bookstore. And Daddy, can I get a book? Can I get 2 books? Can I get 3 books?
Wow.
I may have a writer in the making for you.
That's amazing. Whatever she needs, what I'm going to do is say, hey, Curry, here she is. And I guarantee you, we'll make her a success. We have literary concierge that will work with her all along the way. And most of our concierges have been in the business 10, 15, 20 years. So they know the business, they appreciate the business, and they respect the business, because knowledge is everything. There is a saying that goes, the brain, unlike the stomach, won't tell you when it's empty.
I like that, bruh.
So, again, we need to fill our brains, man. We need to fill our brains.
Absolutely, bro. I'm going to run with that one. I like that.
It's all yours.
That was wisdom right there, bro. So, like, what are some of the things that you're working on with Curry Brothers Publishing, some things outside of that. I'm sure you have your hands in a number of different things that we may not have covered, but I want to give you the opportunity to share with our viewers and listeners what that may consist of.
Yeah, we do. Actually, Governor DeSantis out of Florida, he just signed a bill last July called the Evan B. Hartzell bill, which I wrote a curriculum for anti-bullying and disability awareness. The Hartzells are once one of our clients. We published their book, and now they have a series of 3 children's books. And so the bill will allow us to go into every public school in the state of Florida, 4,237 schools. And actually, it will be disability awareness and anti-bullying will be taught, and we'll be providing the books for those. We're also working with a company called Line Forge Entertainment out of St. Louis. A guy by the name of David Stewart II actually runs that. So we're trying to take several of our books from books to film. And right now, the streaming and entertainment environment, they're looking for content, and we're trying to be the ones to provide that content. So really, really excited about all of that, especially the books to film opportunity, the animation opportunity. Young Evan was in a wheelchair, and if you think about it, there's no cartoons out there about little kids in wheelchairs. So we're hoping to push that forward. So we're working with a lot of producers and developing the screen, the scripts, and things of that nature. We're working with my home chapter, Rho Psi chapter. We were founded in 1930. 2030 is right around the corner, and we're building the anniversary book, 100-year anniversary book. So really, really excited about that. We're talking to President of TSU, David Tucker, and the band about doing a fundraiser for the Aristocrat of Bands. The booster club of the band can now sell to raise money to offset the traveling budget for the Aristocrat of Bands. And so we're trying to give where there's opportunities to do so.
That's excellent, Brian. May 26th will be 100 years for us at Theta Psi. So this is a big year for us. There's a lot of things that we're doing to prepare for that celebratory moment. Homecoming is going to be even more epic than it ordinarily is. Brian, we got to get you down there, West Virginia State, for homecoming, man. You have all of these different things you're working on, and there's so many connections that you and I have because our company, Outspoken Media Group, been around since 2004. Some of the things we do beyond podcasting, of course, our films, our documentaries, our things of that nature. We've been able to identify resources to get that done, not just stateside, but across the border in Canada. So we should definitely talk about that and see what we can do to kind of collage our resources to make that make sense. Because I feel, again, it's not a lot of things that we just in the fraternity, we don't even have to leave the fraternity to figure out the things that we want to do and accomplish. And the resource pool is unlimited. Just from this conversation, and I know what we have in our grab bag and the organization I've been able to build. And then more importantly, just, the people that I have in my ecosystem. Some are bros, some aren't bros. But at the end of the day, I pride myself on surrounding myself by like-minded individuals. Bros like you are a North Star for me because it was people like you that were members of the fraternity before I was. And then just seeing what you were doing as professionals when I was still in college was like, okay, that's the bros whose footsteps I want to follow. And back in the day, it was about being out, whatever. Now it's about achieving and leading by example and things of that nature.
Well, one of the other things I'm doing outside of publishing, there's a company out of Florida, I can't call its name right now, but that we're helping to put data centers on HBCU campuses to assist our engineers. Right now, we've identified FAMU, Tuskegee, and Alabama State, just for 3 of them. And so we're in the midst of trying to raise about $10 million to kind of help with the land acquisition and things of that nature. But we believe that by having those data centers on those campuses, it's going to service that campus forever and ever. And so that's a bigger thing that I'm doing outside of publishing, outside of the government and things of that nature. So one of those philanthropic types of endeavors that I think is critically important. The goal here is to get 5 to 10 HBCUs on board with data centers, again, on their campuses where then their engineers, their scientists can kind of go there, learn, train right there while they're in school. And then, of course, be ready to move out. We got both Google and Microsoft and a couple other companies behind it with the funding. It's going to be a $9.4 billion endeavor. So really, really excited about this. And so there we are.
I got to plug you in with my Sands, Dr. Rosalind Clark Artist, who's the president of Benedict College.
Okay.
So that would be a nice resource because she's taken Benedict from where it was, where she took that post to one of the leading HBCUs, private HBCUs at that. And she's somebody that is beloved in the HBCU community. That's my DST saying.
I was on the White House during the Biden administration. I was on the White House interagency working group.
Okay.
And so last year we were in Philadelphia at the President's Conference. And so many of the HBCU presidents were all there and trying to strategize for prepare for this new incoming administration. Actually, President Biden actually came out to speak at the university. He's the first president to give $14 million to the university, which was kind of cool.
Whatever I can lend as far as resources to what it is you're doing, count me in, bro. Like I'm all about paying it forward. I'm all about not just being rooted in all of what we know to be our reality as far as the problems, but more importantly, how can we lead by example and show them that we can be part of the solution?
Yeah, totally agree. And I think that there's a grand opportunity for us to be a solution on a lot of different levels if we were to truly leverage and challenge ourselves to take it to the next level. And so again, we can't afford to rest. We got to keep moving. Got to keep moving.
This episode of Prepare for Takeoff is brought to you in part by Riverside, the platform that I trust to record studio quality podcasts right from my laptop. With Riverside, I get crystal clear audio and 4K video. Plus, it's super easy to use. Whether you're a beginner or a pro, Riverside helps your podcast sound amazing. Try it out for yourself. Click the affiliate link in our show notes and start recording like a pro with Riverside. Well, bruh, speaking of moving, because I know you're constantly moving, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but as we close out, I want to give you the opportunity to leave our viewers and listeners with 3 things that you feel will help them prepare for takeoff.
You got it. First thing I'm going to say, you have to master at least one thing. Got to master it. You got to know everything about that thing that you profess that you do. If that's your profession that you proclaim, you just can't be a person that just come to work and just punch a clock. You got to know your craft because that's what you're going to be judged by, as well as it's going to become an extension of your identity. The other thing that I would say is that you have to remain intellectually curious about what's next. Why are things the way that they are? Is it a policy decision or is it a resource decision that caused this thing to be where it is? But being intellectually curious is absolutely critical. And then naturally, I have to fall back on literature. You got to read. Got to read everything. Reading and writing needs to become your best friends. Got to become your best friend. And so if you think about it, once upon a time in this country, it was illegal for people that look like you and I to be able to read. And now we take it for granted. Our children take it for granted. Don't want to go to school. Don't want to do the assignments. Are you serious? If you start reading some of the slave narratives, you start seeing the sacrifices that were made just to be able to have a book. If you read the autobiography of Frederick Douglass, he tells you that sometimes he would see a piece of a newspaper blowing down the street, and he would run after that thing and grab it and then teach himself how to read by candlelight. And think about that for a second. And he would keep it forever and ever and go over it over and over again. So he knew every single word that was on that page. He knew that if he was ever caught, he would be killed or either whipped. And he was whipped many times. So again, we got to stop taking things for granted. And if I can recap one more time, master your craft, become intellectually curious about everything, and then read insatiable. But then reading and writing becomes your best friend.
Those were jewels, to say the least, bruh. I'm sure our viewers and listeners are taking notes, been taking notes the whole time. I know mentally I've been taking notes. This is an amazing conversation. I've enjoyed it immensely. And I'm sure our viewers and listeners, they're going to want to know, well, how can we learn more about Dr. Gerald D. Kelly, not only from Google, but is there a website for the publishing arm? Is he on LinkedIn? Is he on IG? What's the best way for people to find you?
The best way to find me is go to cbpublishing.com. That's our website. My email is my name, Gerald Curry at cbpublishing.com. But before we leave you with all the contact stuff, real quick story. The last night my dad was on this earth, I spent the night with him. He was in the hospital, crawled in bed. I was stationed in Korea at the time, and I flew back because we got the Red Cross notification. I crawled in bed with him, and I hugged him because I wanted to keep his body warm. And I asked him 2 questions. I said, Dad, if you had life to live all over again, what would you have done? First thing he said, son, I would have gotten more education. He had a high school diploma, and that was it. But he did the best he could. He said, if I had more education, I could have taken better care of your brothers and your mom. The next thing he said was extremely profound to me. It may not be to your audience, but he said, son, when you're born, you look like your parents. But when you die, you look like your decisions. I need you to make some good decisions. So I promised him that night that the cycle of poverty for our family would end with me. So that's my motivation, man. That's my motivation, is to maintain and keep that promise I made to my dad all those years ago. So again, I'm trying to make some good decisions right now. And that's what all of this is all about.
Right. You're definitely making some great decisions. And, you're a powerful example for others to follow. And, my hat goes off to you. And, when I see older bros doing their thing, and then how you were highly recommended for the podcast, shout out to Jerry Holiday, who told me this is a bro that you need to plug in with. And then, once we were able to do our due diligence, I'm like, oh, we have to make this happen sooner than later. But to further unpack your journey, A to Z, you are a walking history maker. There are people out here saying, man, if I can stand side by side, if I could, let alone just be in the same room as him, that's going to be an accomplishment for many people. Because as you mentioned, more times than not, when you went into some of these rooms, you were the only person of color in the room. So imagine if I find myself in the room with you, besides you or otherwise, then I must have had some level of accomplishment to even be in the room with you.
Oh, most certainly. Most certainly. It's funny you mention that, because those people that are junior to you are looking to you to become that mouthpiece.
Right.
Do you have the courage, the stamina, and the respect of that room to speak truth to power and say what needs to be said?
Right.
So again, always being prepared is absolutely critical. Not something that we can take for granted. Not one day, man. Not one day. Time is the most precious, critical thing that we have. And again, leveraging every single minute, every single second. So again, absolutely critical. So anyway, I'll leave it there, bro, because we can go on. And I appreciate it.
And that's really one of the reasons why we named the show Prepare for Takeoff. We want to put people in a position where we can prepare them to take off, whether it's them taking off in a new career, pivoting to a different career, or whatever they find themselves wanting to do. Maybe they've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but they never mustered up enough nerve to pursue that. One of the things I like to say, bro, is what are you passionate about? And your passion oftentimes will lead you to your purpose. I believe that God puts something on our spirit, and the enemy robs us with our thoughts and that fear that he puts in us. He will plant those seeds of doubt. He will plant fear in our minds. But God will put it on our spirit. He'll put it in our heart. And we have to just learn to listen to our heart more than our mind in that regard.
Well, we have to train our minds. We have to train ourselves how to block out the nonsense. I get to talk about that on a regular basis with a lot of my mentees. That every day you got to train your mind to do the things you want to do. If you want to elevate, and this is about scaling. Everything you do, you have to focus on how can I make it better. Steve Harvey tells a story of him and Robert Smith. What was supposed to have been a 20-minute meeting ended up being a 7-hour meeting. And the one thing that he left out of there when he walked away is that Brother Harvey actually has a ranch where he services about 300 young men every year. He said, Robert Smith said, I don't need to be thinking about the 300. I need to figure out how I can do 3,000. And once I do 3,000, I need to start thinking about how I can do 30,000. And then I need to think about how I can do 3 million and keep taking that joint further down the road. And again, everything that we do. So the projects that we're doing with the publishing company, we're not stopping where we are. We're trying to figure out how can we bless the world and do more? How can we service? How can we give back? How can we open the doors for this next generation? Because again, readers are leaders. You got to be able to read. You got to be able to have access to information. And right now with technology, everything is at our fingertips. What are you doing with it? What are you doing with it?
Right.
And if you're not doing anything with it, then shame on you. Shame on you. And you know, as a grandparent, I owe it to you to sit your little butt down and make sure that you can read.
Bro, I love readers are leaders and learners are earners.
There you go.
We can put that on a shirt.
There you go. You know what? That's a good idea. That's some new merchandising.
Absolutely, man. Well, Dr. Carey, I wanted to thank you for spending so much time and must continue success with all of what it is you're doing with the publishing company and all it is what it is you're doing outside of publishing and the impact that you're making in all of the different areas of discipline. And you are definitely somebody that's tapping into all your gifts that God has bestowed on you. And that's one of the things I try to encourage our viewers and listeners to do. God gives you more than one gift. You should tap into all of them. And you're truly tapping into all your gifts. So much continued success to you. And also I wanted to not just thank you, but I wanted to thank our viewers and listeners, whether you're watching us on Spotify or you're watching us on YouTube or you're listening to us on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Audible, iHeart, or Pandora. As you know, every week, we'll continue to bring you proven professionals and rising entrepreneurs. And all of these conversations, just like this one, will help you prepare for takeoff. Dr. Carey, thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you, sir. Certainly appreciate it. It's been an honor.
Likewise, team.
All right. Rho.